I think Ocasio-Cortez is a brilliant, bright woman, but she won a primary.
2020 candidate Joe Biden was on CNN with Chris Cuomo, where he downplayed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's win and the impact of progressive policy on the party. Now, I'm going to show you this clip, and I'm going to completely dismantle Joe Biden's arguments. Watch.
How do you convince the party that these more advanced ideas, like all in on Medicare for all, that matter to them?
Advanced.
But they're popular in the party.
Well, by the way, watch. That's what this election is about. I'm happy to debate that issue and all those issues with my friends, because guess what? Again, look who won the races. Look who won last time out. We had, and by the way, I think Ocasio-Cortez is a brilliant, bright woman, but she won a primary. In the general election fights, who won? Mainstream Democrats who are very progressive on social issues and very strong on education, healthcare. Look, my North Star is the middle class. When the middle class does well, everybody does well.
All right. Time to dismantle all this crap. Starting with Biden here downplaying AOC's win, saying that, oh, she just won a primary. Yeah, Ocasio-Cortez won a primary against a member of the Democratic leadership, Joe Crowley. She won that primary with no institutional support, obviously, because she was going after a member of the Democratic leadership. And also, she won that primary with 1/10 of the money that Joe Crowley had. So AOC was able to win that primary against Joe Crowley because of her individual donors, volunteers, and her message. So even though she only raised 1/10 of what Joe Crowley did, because she actually had support on the ground, grassroots support, she was able to pull out a massive win in that primary. And then obviously she went on to win the election. So the idea that Biden's focusing so much on her just winning a primary, winning the primary is the hardest part. When you're a progressive with no support from the institution and very little money compared to the obvious corporate money that's coming into the Democratic Party through the DCCC, then, I mean, the idea that you would downplay this win when look at any headline back when she won. They were all freaking out because it had nothing like that had ever happened before. So understand, it was a massive win, and she was able to do it because of grassroots support and her message, her progressive message, her bold progressive message. Now, even apart from the win, I mean, her impact on the conversation, in addition to, of course, Bernie Sanders, they've completely transformed the conversation around policy in the Democratic Party. So, I mean, all you have to do is watch the debates and see the topics that were discussed. Medicare for all, abolishing student debt, free college, I mean, raising wages. These are all ideas that came out of AOC and Bernie Sanders. Now, let's get to the next Biden claim here, where he says, look who won the races, trying to concoct a narrative around 2018 that somehow moderate Democrats dominated the wins in 2018. Not true at all. But before we even get to 2018, let's first look at how many seats the Democrats lost under Obama, Biden, and Pelosi. They lost more than 1,000 seats in state legislatures, governor's mansions, and Congress during Barack Obama's presidency. So that was under the platform of being moderate. Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, they all created this environment where these Democrats ran as moderates, ran to the right, trying to appeal to conservative voters, and in doing that, they lost over 1,000 seats under 8 years. But of course, if that wasn't enough, 2016, Hillary Clinton, the ultimate moderate candidate, lost to Donald Trump. And of course, they still didn't learn their lesson. 2018. So understanding 2018 here, most races didn't have progressive primary challengers like AOC because it takes a group like the Justice Democrats to be able to support a candidate like that, and they only have so many resources when they're only taking money from individual donors. No corporate money, no private fundraisers, individual donors. So they have a limited capacity to be able to actually put challengers in these primary races. But understanding that, look who actually lost in 2018. The highest profile losses were from moderate Democrats. Joe Donnelly in Indiana, lost. Phil Bredesen in Tennessee, lost. Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, lost. Claire McCaskill in Missouri, lost. And in the cases where progressives did lose, they were totally outspent, just like AOC was. So AOC being able to outperform Joe Crowley in the primary while being outspent 10-1, she was a massive underdog. Even with all the support on the ground, money is so important in these races. So when you take a principled position as a progressive and you don't take corporate money, you don't have private fundraisers, that's going to impact your ability to win the race. And even with that, you had progressive wins like AOC. So in the races where a progressive did actually make it to the general election against a Republican, in some of those races, the DCCC had zero interest in supporting those candidates, which again goes to the lack of institutional support affecting these races. So the DCCC, they want to protect their own interests. They want to protect corporate interests. They want to protect their own donors. They're not going to support progressive candidates that are looking to dismantle all of that. So understand the challenge that these progressive candidates are up against. But even with that, even with all of the support on the side of these moderate Democrats, of these corporate Democrats, the highest profile races, these moderate Democrats still lost. So Joe Biden has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. Now, let's get to another piece of this. Joe Biden downplaying the popularity of progressive policy. So let me just pull out the one policy here because it was mentioned, Medicare for all. Now, regardless of the poll, Democratic voters support Medicare for all. You can look at any poll of Medicare for all. Democratic voters in the majority support Medicare for all. Let's look at the most recent poll on this. So majority of voters support Medicare, support phasing out private plans if they can keep providers. So they support Medicare for all if they can keep their providers, meaning their doctors and hospitals, which they do under a Medicare for all plan. So this was one of the rare times that a poll actually phrased the question like this. But you could even see when it didn't phrase it that way. Democratic voters support it anyways. So a Medicare for all system, generally, as the question, 77% support. A Medicare for all system that diminishes the role of private insurers, the second bar there, 68% support. Still a majority of support, even when it's phrased in the way where it's taking away your private insurance. And then the third bar there, which is the actual reality of how this is implemented, a Medicare for all system that diminishes the role of private insurers but allows you to keep your doctors and hospital. 78% support from Democrats. And by the way, also a majority of all voters at 55% support and a majority of independents at 56% support. So on that issue alone, where Joe Biden appears to think the country's with him and not with Medicare for all, he is wrong. Look at any other poll on this issue. You will see that. But look at polls on other positions. Higher taxes on the wealthy and large corporations. The vast majority of all voters support that. Not just Democrats. Democrats obviously in huge numbers support that, but all voters support that. A Green New Deal. Again, the vast majority of Democratic voters support that. Abolishing student debt. Here's a headline from Slate. Student debt forgiveness is really, really popular among Democrats. And that was back in 2018 when nobody was even talking about it. Now, on top of that, the experts also agree with it. Eliminating student debt would be a terrific economic stimulus program. So just, in every way imaginable, Joe Biden has no idea what he is talking about. Someone that actually does know what they're talking about and supports AOC and what she's been doing, Bernie Sanders, who tweeted out, "I'm proud to be working with AOC and so many other Democrats to pass Medicare for all, debt-free college, and a Green New Deal. This is the agenda America needs, and that will energize voters to defeat Donald Trump." And then AOC replied to him saying, "Thank you, Sanders. It's an honor to work alongside you and the millions of other people fighting for education, healthcare, and a living wage as rights." This is where the energy of the Democratic Party is. And not even just the energy. This is where the facts of the Democratic Party is. They are actually in reality. They understand the popularity of these policy proposals, and not just the popularity of them, but that it's the right thing to do. Giving everyone health care, making health care universal is the right thing to do, as just one example. Joe Biden is playing an old tune that the majority of voters, as we can see from polls, have grown tired of.